Eddie Hearn offered Josh Kelly a low ball offer to fight Jaron Boots Ennis, so it looks like that fight is not going to happen. And Jaron Boots Ennis still doesn't have an opponent at 154 pounds for his debut. And we got to have an honest conversation about Boots, man. And let me start off by saying this, because I hate to make this video, right? Jaron Boots Ennis is my favorite boxer right now, out of all weight classes, right? But I don't like the way that Jaron Boots Ennis is moving right now. He was at 154. We were supposed to get the Brian Norman Jr. fight. Brian Norman Jr. turned down the fight, ended up fighting Jin Sasaki in Japan, right? So Brian Norman Jr. gets a knockout. Okay, cool. So let's make the fight happen. All of a sudden, Jaron Boots Ennis announces that he's moving up to 154. Now, what's very hypocritical about that is, leading up to his fight against Ennis, we seen pictures of Boots, leading up to the weigh-ins, and everybody was saying that Boots, looked like Michael Jackson from Thriller, like Boots looked like he killed himself to make that weight, right? So Boots talked at a press conference and said people don't know what they're talking about. He's going to make weight. He had no problems. Everything is fine, right? Boots ends up, making Ennis' corner, throwing the towel. He wins that fight in dominant fashion, right? Arguably the best performance of his career, right? So all of a sudden, Boots comes out and says that, his doctors advised him to move up because if he continues to stay at 147, he's not going to be the best version of himself in the ring. And, him moving up is the best thing for his body. I'm like, okay, cool. So, let's get this Virgil Ortiz fight, Turkey Al-Sheikh comes out and says that Jaron Boots Ennis wants a tune-up. And listen, I have no problem with that because, people keep saying that, oh, if Boots is so great, why does he need a tune-up? Okay, well, Israel Majamov was a tune-up for Terrence Bud Crawford. Like a lot of people, it's so funny how quick people forget things like that. Like Israel Majamov, I believe he only had 10 or 11 professional fights at the time that he fought Terrence Bud Crawford. Like that was a tune-up. Now, it just turns out that Israel Majamov performed very well against Terrence Crawford. Many people like myself think that he beat Terrence Crawford, but that was supposed to be a tune-up. You understand what I'm saying? So I have no problem with Boots, not wanting to fight, arguably the best guy at 154 for his first fight. That actually makes sense because he wants to see how he looks in his new weight class. You understand what I'm saying? But my problem with that is we need to get a solid opponent for Boots, right? Like, I think a good opponent would be Serhii Boachuk. That's the guy that many people like myself think beat Virgil Ortiz. He dropped Virgil Ortiz. Somehow Virgil still won. I don't know how, but I think that'll be a good fight for Boots. Another opponent is Keith One-Time Thurman. Keith Thurman has no fights lined up. He had his first fight at 154 against Brock Jarvis in Australia. He knocked him out. Let's get Jaron Boots Ennis versus Keith Thurman. And there's some history there, guys. Remember, Boots was calling out Keith Thurman, and Boots' people in person was pressing Keith Thurman. So I think this is a fight that can easily get made as long as you pay Keith Thurman what he deserves, because Keith Thurman, he's a future Hall of Famer boxer. He has a great resume. His only loss is to Manny Pacquiao. Just make sure you pay Keith Thurman properly. And I think that'll be a good first fight for Jaron Boots Ennis. Boots is 28. Keith Thurman is 37. Keith Thurman has only fought one time in the last 3 years. I think that'll be a good squabble, right? But let's keep talking about the people that Boots ducked, right? So before we heard he was moving up to 154, we found out that Turkey Al-Sheikh offered Boots a fight with Teofimo Lopez, and he turned it down. Devin Haney came out and did an interview with Ring Magazine and said that he offered Jaron Boots Ennis, a fight. He wanted to fight Boots. Boots said that he would only do it at a catch weight of 152 pounds. Devin Haney hasn't even had one official fight at 147. So because it doesn't make sense to just have a fight at 152, he said no. That's ducking, bro. Listen, I don't care about what Boots' doctor said. The fact that Boots, who was calling out Terrence Crawford while he was at 147, the fact that Boots, you turned down the fight with Virgil Ortiz, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, that's ducking, bro. Especially when you claim to be the top guy, especially when you claim that you're moving up to 154 looking for all the smoke. Like, that's crazy to me, bro. Like, and I'm going to go ahead and say this. I think that Boots saying that his doctors told him he can't make 147, I think that's cap. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I think Boots, it's looking to me like Boots just didn't want to fight Brian Norman Jr. Maybe when he saw that knockout, maybe he got cold feet and was like, I don't want that fight anymore. I'm going to just move up. You know what I'm saying? The fact that he wouldn't fight Devin Haney is crazy, bro. Devin Haney, who's coming off of that loss against Ryan Garcia that ended up getting overturned, the damage that he took in that fight, and then you see his performance against Jose Ramirez. The fact that Boots didn't take that fight, you didn't take a fight with Teofimo Lopez, who has never fought at 147. Guys, think about this. This guy, Teo, was willing to move up to 147, never fought at 147. Many people don't even think Teo has looked that good at 140. His power hasn't translated to 140. Since he's moved up to 140, he hasn't had any knockouts. Teo's not even really dropping people. You know what I'm saying? Hasn't had a knockout in years. I think his last knockout was against... it wasn't Richard Comey, it was somebody else. Somebody let me know in the comment section. But that's very telling to me, bro. That's very telling to me that Boots is ducking all of these guys, bro. And he's having all of these excuses. So it's not looking good, man. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. If we don't get Boots versus Virgil Ortiz next year, Jaron Boots Ennis is scared of that, man, bro. Let's just call it what it is, bro. Like, we got to call a duck, man. And listen, I'm saying this about my current favorite fighter. You see, that's the difference between me and most boxing fans, bro. I hold my fighters to the fire. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, bro, I'm calling you out. You know what I'm saying? I'm calling you out. People got so many bad things to say about Devin Haney, but Devin Haney ain't out here ducking people like Boots is. Devin Haney is fighting Brian Norman Jr. for his first fight at 147. Now, I will say this. He did have one fight with Jose Ramirez at a catchweight, but the fact that his first official fight at 147 is against Brian Norman Jr., you got to give the man credit for that. That's a dangerous fight just because he's stepping in there with a guy that has real punching power, a guy that's a natural 147 pounder. You got to give credit when it's due. Boots out here looking for tune-ups, bro. Boots is out here looking for tune-ups, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is crazy, man. This is crazy, man. You got Bakram at 154. You got I think what's the guy's name? Erickson Lubin is at 154. Jesus Ramos is at 154. You got all of these guys, and Boots is struggling to get a fight. Boots is out here, got his manager Eddie Hearn, giving out low ball offers and then blaming. Nah, bro. If you out here giving a low ball offer, that means you really don't want the fight. The fact that Eddie Hearn offered Josh Kelly, $350,000 to come all the way from the UK. That's a spit in the face, bro. That means that Boots never really wanted that fight. That is a horrible offer, bro. You gotta think about the travel costs. He got to split that money with his team. That's nothing, bro. That's not worth coming to America to fight in Philadelphia for $350,000. So it's looking like we might have to change Jaron Boots Ennis' nickname to Jaron Ducks Ennis, bro. That might have to be his new nickname, bro. So let me know what y'all think about this video. It's your boy Wavy. Stay Wavy TV. Subscribe. Leave a comment. I'm out.